If someone were to ask Catherine Bloom what the biggest secret she had ever kept in her life was, the answer would undoubtedly send the entire office into utter shock. She was the legal wife of CEO Alfred Stewart, the notoriously cold, strict, and emotionally detached man who maintained absolute distance from any form of romantic entanglement within the company, and that secret had been kept hidden for 3 whole years. 3 years, not a single slip of the tongue, not one stray glance, not even the smallest mistake. To her colleagues, Katherine was just a creative, energetic employee, perhaps a little too dreamy at times, but perfectly ordinary. To everyone else, Alfred Stewart was a no-nonsense CEO, reserved and robotic, with no sign of personal relationships, except for his ever-reliable secretary, Phillips. No one would have guessed that, every evening after work, the grumpy CEO and Katherine quietly returned to the same home, shared silent dinners, and slept in the same warm bed, all without a word. Why did they hide their marriage so carefully? The answer lay in a strict policy issued by the company's board years ago following a scandal, a complete ban on workplace romance. Ironically, the person who had enforced that policy was none other than Alfred's father, the company's founder. So when the two prestigious families arranged a marriage between Alfred and Katherine to strengthen business ties, both had no choice but to sign the marriage certificate and pretend it had never happened. At first, Katherine thought feelings would develop. Over time, she had once admired Alfred from afar, a handsome, calm, magnetic man, but being married to someone like him turned out to be nothing like she imagined. He was always too busy, too logical, and kept an invisible wall even at home. She used to dream of a sweet office romance, secret glances, teasing texts during meetings. In reality, every time they crossed paths at work, Alfred would simply nod politely, even more serious than usual. She wasn't the boss's wife, she was just another employee. Sometimes, she was even reprimanded like anyone else. Trapped in a world full of rules and secrecy, Katherine found her own quirky way to cope, writing fanfiction. She imagined secret love affairs between Alfred and his secretary, Phillips. Risky, yes, but at least in that imagined world, she could breathe life into the kind of love she could never experience in reality. This double life, balancing a secret marriage and a regular office job, led Katherine to develop a strange but remarkably effective stress relief, writing fanfiction starring her own husband, CEO Alfred Stewart, and his loyal secretary, Jeremy Phillips. In her fictional universe, Alfred was no longer the icy executive but a passionate character drawn irresistibly to his tall, silent secretary. Phillips, with his bodyguard-like appearance and eyes that never strayed from Alfred, became the perfect co-star for these sweet, dramatic, and occasionally, scandalously steamy storylines. Katherine's CEO ex-secretary fanfiction became an underground sensation within the company. No one knew who the author was, but everyone eagerly awaited new chapters like they waited for annual bonuses. Secret group chats buzzed with wild debates about who was the top, who was the bottom, and there was even a playful betting pool circulating between departments. And then, disaster struck. During a boring quarterly meeting, as the entire room yawned their way through lifeless growth charts, Katherine, bored out of her mind, sneakily opened her laptop to type a few lines for the next chapter of her fanfic. The story was nearing its climax. Jeremy pushed CEO Stewart against the desk, eyes sharp, voice husky. "So tell me, sir, who's going to be on top today?" She typed quickly, oblivious to the glances around her. Then, in a single careless second, she accidentally connected her laptop to the main projector in the middle of the conference room. The entire scene, describing an explicit encounter between Alfred and his secretary, flashed across the giant screen, in full view of dozens of stunned senior staff, and Alfred Stewart himself, sitting at the head of the table. The room froze. Katherine was paralyzed, heart plummeting to her feet. She scrambled to turn off the screen, yank out the cable, block the display with her hands, but it was too late. The damning words remained, blinking brightly under the cursor. Alfred let out a low moan as Phillips loosened his tie, an oppressive silence fell over the room. The only person who spoke was Alfred. His voice was low and even, cold as a knife. Katherine Bloom. So, am I the one on top or the one underneath? She was speechless. His eyes bore into hers, filled not just with fury, but a deep sense of betrayal. It wasn't the content that hurt him most, it was the broken trust. He, her secret husband, had been turned into a sensual fictional character by his own wife, and in front of the entire company, no less. The meeting dissolved into chaos. No one dared to comment. No one dared to laugh. Alfred stood, stone-faced, and calmly ordered Katherine's entire monthly bonus to be revoked. He said nothing more when they got home. The atmosphere was even worse than in the meeting room. Alfred fell into a deep silence, beginning what would become a painful Cold War. He didn't speak. He didn't look at her. He even moved into the guest bedroom. Katherine wanted to explain, to apologize, but every word caught in her throat whenever she met his icy gaze. She sat in their shared bedroom, deleting the fanfiction line by line, feeling like an idiot who had burned her only bridge. The fragile affection she had carefully nurtured for 3 years now teetered on the edge of collapse, all because of one foolish moment of daydreaming. Fanfiction, once her sanctuary amid a cold and distant marriage, had become a double-edged sword, slicing the last threads that held her and the man she silently loved together. Yet even while trapped in this seemingly endless silent war, Katherine continued to quietly prepare a special birthday gift for Alfred. She chose a pastel pink tie, elegant and refined enough for the office, yet playful enough to reflect the hidden spark beneath his calm demeanor. It was the first gift she had ever given him in their 3-year marriage, and she wanted it to be perfect. To make sure she chose something that matched Alfred's taste, Katherine decided to drag Jeremy Phillips, her husband's personal secretary, along on a shopping trip. Although Phillips was hesitant at first, she confidently reassured him with one bold line, "Don't worry, I'll handle getting Mr. Stewart's permission." The outing was completely harmless, but what started out as innocent would soon spiral into a painful and deep misunderstanding. Just a few days later, during an emergency meeting over a major project error, Alfred, as always, unleashed his fury on the person in charge, and Richardson, in front of the entire room, he coldly announced her termination due to mishandling a contract review. The room fell silent. But Katherine, always someone who valued fairness, stood up to intervene. "I think we should reconsider. And as a dedicated employee, this might have just been a one-time mistake. Firing her now will only delay the project further and cost the company more." What she didn't expect was that this seemingly righteous act would open the door to an unexpected betrayal. Anne, whose face had been soaked in tears just moments ago, suddenly turned on her, her eyes now filled with bitter resentment. She pulled out her phone and held it up in the center of the room. "Stop pretending to be the noble one, Katherine. Trying to play fair in front of the CEO just to score points? Don't forget, I have proof of your little closeness with Secretary Phillips." On the screen were secretly taken photos of Katherine and Jeremy Phillips together at the mall, choosing ties, Katherine holding a suit jacket up against him. There was even a short video clip showing them laughing together, intimate, or at least suspicious, to an outsider. Whispers erupted across the room. The atmosphere instantly transformed into a silent courtroom. But and wasn't done. Everyone knows Phillips is the person Mr. Stewart trusts most. Cozying up to him is the fastest shortcut to power. And Katherine, who always pretends not to care, is the most manipulative one of all. Katherine stood frozen. She had never felt so publicly humiliated or slandered in her life. She turned to Alfred, hoping, praying, for him to say something in her defense, or at the very least, ask her for an explanation, but he said nothing, his expression unreadable. His gaze icy. "Katherine. You told me you were just buying snacks that day." Just one sentence. No anger. No accusations, but it was colder than any punishment, a silent judgment that didn't need to be spoken aloud. Katherine's throat tightened, no words came out. Her heart felt like it was being crushed, not because of the accusations, but because the one person whose trust she had hoped for the most didn't stand by her. She submitted her leave request that very day. Days passed, and she still didn't return to the office. Messages from close colleagues trickled in one by one. "Katherine, I believe in you. Don't let the gossip get to you. We miss you so much." Katherine curled up on the sofa, phone in hand, tears streaming down her face. In a moment of weakness, she opened the old chat thread with Alfred. The sweet messages from the past now cut like blades. She wanted to send him a message, to explain everything, but her fingers trembled, then dropped the phone in silence. She was too tired of always being the one to reach out first. She made a quiet decision: if Alfred didn't come home, she wouldn't take another step toward him either until, on the night before his birthday, she received a message. "He's just returned to the city." Katherine's eyes fell quietly on the pastel pink tie tucked away in the closet. Will this gift be enough to bring him back? She wondered. The days Alfred was away on his business trip were the longest stretch of solitude Katherine had endured since they got married. No explanation. No texts. Not even a single call, just an endless silence that made her feel like an outsider in the very marriage she once believed was her fate. She lost all appetite, lying on the sofa for hours, red-eyed from crying, her hand clinging to the soft pink tie she had hidden so carefully. The gift she had chosen with all her sincerity now felt painfully bittersweet. She had believed that if he knew the truth, that everything she did was to understand him better, to make him smile more, he would forgive her, pull her into his arms like before. But Alfred hadn't given her that chance. He vanished, as quietly as he had first appeared in her life, until the night before his birthday. The front door creaked open just before midnight. Katherine was lying in bed, nearly asleep from exhaustion, when the sound startled her awake. She didn't turn on the lights, just cracked the bedroom door open enough to glimpse Alfred's tall figure walking slowly up the stairs. A faint glow from the living room traced the edges of his face. They locked eyes in silence. His gaze wasn't cold anymore, but it wasn't warm enough to ease her heart either. Without a word, Alfred turned away and walked into the guest room, where he had decided to spend the night. A small decision, but one that cut deep into her heart. Katherine lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Her mind kept looping one question over and over: should I say something? Or will he just ignore me again? In the end, she couldn't take it anymore. Quietly opening the door, she stepped into the guest room where Alfred was already lying on his side, his back turned to her. She didn't turn on the light, only let the moonlight filter in through the window, casting a soft glow over his face. The face she had once memorized like a prayer, now suddenly felt distant and heartbreakingly unfamiliar. Silently, Katherine climbed into the bed. Saying nothing, she gently slid her arm around his waist and hugged him from behind, her cheek pressing against his warm back, the place she had once believed would always be her safe haven. He didn't react, but she knew he was awake. Taking a deep breath, her voice came out as a broken whisper: "I'm sorry. I didn't lie to hide something bad. I just wanted to surprise you for your birthday. I didn't know what you liked and didn't want to get you something meaningless, so I asked Phillips for help." A long pause. She continued, voice even softer: "You're always busy. Always so serious. I thought, if I didn't try to understand you, then who would? I just wanted to be closer to you, that's all." Alfred's hand tightened slightly, but he still said nothing. Katherine held back tears as she reached under the pillow and pulled out the carefully wrapped tie, placing it gently on his chest. "Your birthday. This is all I have left to give you." Finally, Alfred slowly turned to face her. For the first time in days, his eyes met hers, softened by a mixture of guilt and tenderness. With a gentle motion, he reached up and brushed her cheek, where a tear had silently fallen onto the pillow. "I'm sorry." His voice was hoarse, tight with emotion. "I doubted you, when you were the one who's always been by my side." She bit her lip, wanting to smile but unable to. Her chest ached with emotion. Alfred looked at the tie, then back at her. "It's beautiful. Just like you, soft, but stubborn." Once someone touches it, they won't want to let go. He pulled her into his arms and whispered by her ear, "Thank you, for not giving up on me, even when I deserved it." The pastel pink tie lay silently between them, a simple gift, yet brimming with unspoken emotions. Katherine, eyes still brimming with tears, clutched it tightly as she gazed into Alfred Stewart's deep, searching eyes. For the first time in days, they truly faced each other, not as boss and employee, not as two strangers living under the same roof, but as husband and wife. "I tried so hard," she choked out, voice trembling. "I know I was foolish. I know I should have explained everything from the start. But I just wanted to surprise you. I never meant to lie to you. I only wanted to make you happy." Her voice quivered, on the edge of breaking again. But she didn't look away. She wanted Alfred to see it all, her sincerity, her pain, and the unwavering love she still held for him. Alfred remained silent for a few seconds. Then he gently raised his hand and wiped away the tear on her cheek, something inside him quietly melting. "I know," he said softly. His voice was low and slow. "Phillips told me everything, earlier." Katherine froze. "What?" "Right after that day, Phillips explained it all. That you only asked him for advice on choosing a tie. That you couldn't decide between ready-made and custom. He even grumbled about you dragging him around shopping all afternoon." Her eyes widened. "Then, why didn't you say anything? Why did you stay silent?" Alfred lowered his head slightly, closing his eyes as if avoiding the shame. "I wanted to hear it from you. I wanted to see if you would tell me the truth on your own." Silence filled the room, heavy and tense. Katherine stared at her husband, the man who was always so calm, so proud, and now, he was stammering like a guilty schoolboy admitting his mistake. "You're so infuriating," she muttered, her tone a mix of irritation and relief. Alfred chuckled softly, pulling her closer into his chest. "I know. But I couldn't blame you. And I couldn't bear the thought of losing you. Even if it was just a misunderstanding, the idea of losing you drove me mad." He leaned down and kissed her gently on the forehead. "About Anne. I've investigated everything. She didn't just make a mistake. She deliberately altered a contract clause to redirect benefits to a partner company, which turned out to be a competitor. You defended her, only because you didn't know." Katherine nodded, tears glistening again. "If I had known, I never would have stood up for her. But I don't regret speaking up. I'd rather defend the wrong person than stay silent and let someone innocent take the fall." Alfred smiled and hugged her tighter. "That's why I love you. You always choose what's right, even when it's the wrong person." He reached out and picked up the tie. "This gift is just like you. Subtle, elegant, but with its own personality. You know, I've never dared to choose this color before." "I know," Katherine whispered. "But I also knew it would suit you. You just never let anyone tell you that." Alfred chuckled, his first genuine laugh in weeks. He pulled Katherine up to sit beside him and seriously adjusted the tie around his neck. "How do I look?" he asked, a mischievous sparkle in his eyes. "Perfect," she replied with a sweet smile. "Makes you look a little less cold." "Can't have that," Alfred leaned in close to her ear. "I want people to still be afraid of me, but only you get to know how soft I really am." Katherine giggled and rested her head on his shoulder. "Then I'll keep that secret for the rest of my life." The moonlight continued to spill through the window, bathing the room in a soft silver glow. Outside was a world of deadlines, rumors, and misunderstandings, but in that moment, in each other's arms, it was just the two of them. A quiet restart born of forgiveness, a simple gift, and a love strong enough to endure every test. That year, Alfred Stewart's birthday had no extravagant parties. But for the first time in years, he felt genuinely loved, not because he was a CEO, but simply because he was him. The next morning, Katherine walked into the office feeling both nervous and slightly terrified. Though she and Alfred had reconciled, she still had no idea how her coworkers would react after the roller coaster of scandals, from her fanfiction fiasco to the rumors involving Jeremy Phillips. She had once been a well-liked employee. Now, she just hoped no one threw tomatoes at her, but all her worries vanished in an instant when, the moment she entered the main lobby, she was pulled into the warm, firm embrace of none other than Alfred Stewart himself, the all-powerful CEO, the famously untouchable Ice King no one dared approach within 3 feet. The entire office went silent. Alfred held Katherine's hand and led her straight into the center of the office floor, right in the middle of the weekly staff meeting. No one said a word. No one even dared breathe too loudly. The photocopier even stopped whirring at the perfect moment. Then, with a voice calm, deep, but firm, Alfred declared, "Starting today, the company's policy prohibiting workplace relationships is officially abolished." The room erupted into chaos. Eyes widened as if Alfred had just announced a company-wide salary bonus. Alfred looked around, gave Katherine's hand a reassuring squeeze as if to lend her strength, then continued. "The reason is simple. This is my wife, Katherine Bloom. We've been legally married for 3 years." If the room had been shocked before, now it was a full-on magnitude 10 earthquake. Shouts of "What? No way, I'm dead," echoed from every corner. One accountant even nearly fell off his chair. 3 years? 3 whole years of being married while working together, and no one had a clue. They had officially become the most successful undercover couple in the company's history. "Miss Katherine. You're really Miss Stewart?" a young woman blurted out in disbelief. Katherine could only smile, blushing furiously, and gave a shy nod. After a few stunned seconds, the atmosphere began to shift. Applause started to break out, slowly building until the entire office stood up and cheered, as if they had just watched a heartwarming movie come to life. Several people were visibly teary-eyed, especially those who had witnessed the rumors Katherine endured. "Can't believe I lived to see CEO Stewart being this in love with his wife. 3 years hiding their love? This is like a spy thriller. Wait, does this mean no more CEO ex-secretary fanfic?" someone cried from the design department. That last remark sent the whole office into laughter. Everyone knew the legendary CEO Stewart ex-secretary Phillips fanfic, secretly written by Katherine, had become a lunchtime favorite stress reliever. Alfred heard the comment and turned to Katherine, his face serious, but with a sparkle of amusement in his eyes. "That fanfic can come to an end now. From now on, you can start a new series." Katherine blinked in surprise. "What? You're not banning me from writing anymore?" Alfred smiled. "Of course not. But the theme has to change. I want you to write about your real married life. About a wife who loved and waited for her stubborn husband for 3 years. About Mrs. Stewart." The office erupted again, this time from sheer romantic overload. "Oh my God, the boss just confessed in broad daylight. New fanfic series incoming, CEO ex legal wife. Publish it, Katherine, I'll read every word." Katherine looked at Alfred, her heart pounding wildly. She never imagined their secret love would be revealed in such a bold, brave, and incredibly sweet way. She smiled, her eyes glowing with pure happiness. "Then I'll write it. I'll write everything, from the first tie to your night sleeping on the sofa." Alfred chuckled softly, leaned in, and whispered in her ear, "But tone the kissing scenes down a bit. I don't want the whole company knowing what you gave me last night." Katherine burst out laughing, her face turning bright red. But she knew, starting today, the company, the world, would no longer be a wall between them. After the shocking announcement, Katherine Bloom walked out of the meeting room with a new identity, not just a creative employee, but the legal wife of CEO Alfred Stewart. Yet what warmed her heart the most wasn't the stunned or envious looks from colleagues, it was the genuine, heartfelt smiles of congratulations, Katherine. Now I finally understand why your fanfics always captured the CEO character so well. Wait, so you were inspired by your own husband? So you wrote kissing scenes between Alfred and Phillips and never got scolded for it? Katherine could only blush and shake her head in disbelief. The gossip was a bit over the top, but she could clearly feel it. Everyone genuinely supported her, and that alone made everything feel lighter than ever. That afternoon, Alfred stopped by Katherine's office, holding a latte from her favorite cafe. It was a small gesture, but one that made her heart race. He placed the cup on her desk, then quietly sat across from her, still into hazelnut lattes. He asked, eyes soft with affection. She nodded. My go-to stress drink. Then today, you're drinking it out of happiness? She laughed softly. No more cold silences, no more misunderstandings. Between them now was peace, understanding, the very thing she once thought they'd never reach. Alfred, she placed her hand gently over his, I know I've been silly. If I had just been more honest, maybe none of this would have happened. And if I'd trusted my wife more, he smiled, you wouldn't have had to cry over a necktie. They both laughed. Laughed at the storms they'd weathered. Laughed at how a quiet little dream, of a wife secretly loving her husband behind a meeting room door, had finally stepped into the light. Bold and beautiful. Since the office romance ban was lifted, the atmosphere in the company shifted entirely. Superiors and subordinates relaxed a little. People started catching glances, like love had just received a government-issued stamp of approval. As for Katherine, she launched a new fanfic series titled Mrs. Stewart, Diary of a CEO's Wife. Within a week of its internal release, it racked up hundreds of reads, dozens of comments, and a book print request from the marketing department. Please write the jealous Alfred scene next. Give us the behind-the-scenes necktie fight, please. Your husband must be dying inside reading this, but loving it at the same time. Surprisingly, Alfred was always the first to hit like on every chapter she posted. One night, as they cuddled on the couch, he wrapped an arm around her waist and whispered, I never thought I'd become a main character in an online novel. She rested her head on his shoulder and replied, you're the lead, sure, but I'll have to drag you through some drama for the plot. He chuckled, as long as the main character gets to sleep beside the author every night, it's worth it. Time passed. Alfred remained the firm's CEO, Katherine the clever and creative staff member, but now, there were no more secrets, no more guessing, no more doubts. Every workday was a step forward. Together, in career, in life, and in love. Katherine was no longer just the CEO's wife. She was a respected writer, bringing comfort and humor to the entire office. And Alfred? From ICE CEO to office heartthrob husband material, their love was no longer hidden behind doors. It lived, it breathed, and it was admired. And whenever someone asked, what's the best thing about being married for 3 years? Katherine would simply smile and say, it's that, we can finally hold hands in the daylight.